Now we're going to continue with our speeches here on stage, and we are welcoming SkanGas with the topic Making LNG Available. And about SkanGas, I can say that they are a leading player in the Nordic LNG market. And they provide customers with LNG for shipping, industrial, and heavy-duty land transport needs. SkanGas help their customers achieve their environmental and operative objectives by providing effective and reliable LNG deliveries. Please welcome the Marketing and Sales Director, Tommy Mattila.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to tell a little bit about SkanGas and how we work with the LNG market and making LNG available. I hope you enjoyed the lunch. I already had my lunch. It was very good, as all the food and drinks has been here during these 2 days. My name is Tommy Mattila. I work at SkanGas. I'm responsible for the sales and marketing. We are a Nordic company, so we operate in the Nordic market. Myself, I'm sitting in the office in Finland, but we are, as I said, operating in the Nordic market. Our core business, our focus is on LNG, liquefied natural gas. We are focusing on that. And what do we do then? We operate a whole supply chain within the Nordic countries. So we have a LNG production facility in Stavanger in Norway. We have a number of LNG receiving terminals in the Nordic countries, both in Norway, Finland, and in Sweden. We also have chartered an LNG feeders and also a bunker vessel, which I will talk about later on. But our main thing is, of course, to make LNG available to our customers so they can get the benefits of using natural gas. But what is really LNG, or why LNG? We have to remember, in fact, that LNG is natural gas. And if you look at the big picture and go back some time, the natural gas markets has been very local. There's been local pipelines serving local markets. After that, the gas market has developed more to a regional market. For example, the European gas pipelines has been integrated, so we have a regional market. But now, with the help of LNG, the gas market is also getting global. So we are getting more and more closer to an oil market. This is a very busy slide. Luckily, it's not my slide, so I haven't made it, but it's showing a little bit the flows, how the flow is increasing with LNG. That means that there's production facilities globally around the world. We'll see if I don't fall over this one. And then you have different markets. And that means, of course, from the availability point of view, you will have more sources to get LNG into different markets. And of course, the other thing is also that you will get more commercial possibilities, and you will get the trading part as well, meaning that the transparency of pricing of gas will be wider as we are getting more and more. All right, stepping around too much. But that means, as I said, that the gas reserves, which are global, are also being easier accessible to the European market, and as well as, of course, to the regional markets here in the Nordics. So as I said, we are getting closer and closer to a more liquid oil market, but that's, of course, a very long way to go. We have to remember that the oil markets has been around for over 100 years, and the LNG market is not there yet. On the other hand, of course, we also have to remember that from a global perspective, we have much more gas reserves than we have oil reserves. So that's also a fundament for ensuring the availability of LNG, and that LNG will be available for those who needs it. And of course, we see also that as you have more and more gas coming into the market, that should also ensure then a competitive price. Because the more and more gas you get into the market, the more competitive the price should be. In this presentation, I will not dig down so much into the benefits of LNG, as I said, more covering the availability and how we work with the market to get LNG available in this market. But of course, need to mention also from the why LNG, not only from the availability and the competitiveness, it's of course the environmental aspects of LNG also, especially when we are looking at the shipping market, both with the SECA regulations and also of course the NOx, the NECA regulations which are coming into force. The good thing with natural gas and LNG is, of course, it's sulfur-free. So the sulfur regulations is not a problem to be fulfilled with using LNG as a fuel. On the NOx side, again, we reduce NOxes by using LNG, depending on the engines, of course, between 80 to 85%. On the CO2, again, the reduction against oil is roughly 25%, depending a little bit how it's calculated. And on top of that, of course, there's more or less no particulate matters when using LNG as a fuel. The discussion has been a lot about the sulfur, and as I said, that fulfills well with using LNG. But of course, there's more and more discussions also around the particulate matters around the NOx. That's coming, of course, also from this Dieselgate in the passenger cars with the NOx and so forth. So, of course, a lot of harbors are in very high population density areas, so it's not only the sulfur and not only the CO2, but it's also the NOx and particulate matters from shipping that can be achieved and lowered by using LNG. So the drivers are there both from an environmental perspective, from an availability perspective, and of course, as I said, we see more and more gas coming into the market, which should also ensure the competitive pricing of LNG as we go further. But what about the area here? What about the Nordics? What about the infrastructure? What about the availability in these markets? There has already been built, both by SkanGas and of course by others also, infrastructure in the Northwest Europe and in the Nordic countries. There's quite a lot of, I don't think there's a full map with all the plans, because there's quite many different plans and projects in the Nordic countries and as well as in Northwest Europe. I wouldn't say in every harbor, but in quite many harbors. And of course, time will tell which of those projects then will come true. But of course, we are focusing as SkanGas on making our distribution chain, investing in our distribution chain and ensuring thus the availability for the customers in this region. But there's also a lot happening for other companies within this area. And that's of course good. I think it's good for us, competition, and of course it's very good for the customers in the end of the day. The more competition, the more availability, the secure the supply will be also. What about the SkanGas? What are we doing then? What is our infrastructure in the Nordic countries? See if this is working. But okay, we have in Riisavika in Stavanger, we have an LNG production facility with a capacity of 300,000 tons LNG per year, and also a terminal there that we can then deliver to the local customers and to the shipping market within this area. Then as south of Oslo in Øra, we have a smaller terminal, 6,500 cubic terminal serving that area. Here up in Lysekil, we have a 30,000 cubic terminal at the Preem refinery. In Finland, we opened a terminal last autumn in Pori, in the western part of Finland. That's also a 30,000 cubic terminal. We are a shareholder in a terminal which is up in the north, in Tornio, which is really on the border between Finland and Sweden. We have a 25% share in that terminal that will be opened in spring 2018. On top of that, we also have reserved a land lot in the harbor of Gävle and looking at how we can develop also another terminal within that area. This is more on the details. I think I'm not sure if these presentations will be available, but hopefully, so then you can also see them more really on the details. But maybe highlighting still also our supply. As I said, we have a 300,000 tons own production facility as a base load, but on top of that, we also source LNG from the larger terminals within Northwest Europe, such as picking up from the Zeebrugge terminal, Gate terminal. We have also picked up LNG from the Klaipėda terminal in the Baltic Sea. And this is of course very important for the availability, in that sense that there is availability not only in one point, but also from these larger LNG terminals. And that going back to the first slide, showing the flow, the global flows of LNG. So via those terminals, you can also be then connected to the global LNG market. On top of that, of course, we transfer LNG then from those terminals, from large-scale terminals, from our own production facility to our distribution terminals. And for that, of course, we need shipping capacity. And at the moment, we have 2 vessels. One is Coral Energy, which we have had already for some years. That's chartered from Antony Weather. It's an ice class 1A, 15,600 cubic vessel, which we then deliver LNG between the different terminals. I hope as many as possible of you visited Coralius, which is our newest vessel. Talk a little bit later more about her, but she is just being commissioned more or less as we speak. And she will be a combination of doing feedering in this area between the terminals and also then doing ship-to-ship bunkering for vessels. And our third vessels will also be online during the end of this year, and that's a Coral Energize, which is a little bit bigger, 18,000 cubic vessel, and she is then also with a higher ice class, so she will have an ice class 1A super, which means when we do deliveries up to the Tornio terminal, we can do that also regardless of the weather. On top of that, of course, it's very good. This was the first winter that the world's first LNG-driven icebreaker, the Polaris, was breaking the ice up in the north also. So we were quite secured in that sense. We deliver LNG to the icebreaker, and then we have high ice class, so that's also ensuring the availability also in the harsh conditions up in north. And of course, we have a number of trucks delivering then the LNG to our customers, both to the industrial side and to the marine sector. It's I've been myself earlier 10 years in the oil business and now 10 years within the gas business. So of course, bunkering a vessel, it's just as oil liquid, you need to have liquid, and then you'll put it on the ship. So it's nothing special about that. But the main ways of doing that bunkering is, of course, from ship to ship, or you do it directly from trucks, or you do it from a fixed installation. Is it then at a tank or is it then a terminal? Of course, there's some solutions also with changing containers and so forth. But these 3 are the main things of main elements of making LNG available and deliver it into ships. Maybe one thing still to point out also, and which is very important when we think about the Nordic area and again making the LNG available here, is the beauty of natural gas, the beauty of LNG. The same LNG that can be delivered to ships, the same LNG we do deliver to industrial customers, to many different applications. The same LNG is delivered into filling trucks, which use LNG as a fuel in the trucks. And why is this important? It's of course important that we can utilize that same infrastructure, those same terminals, those same ships to deliver the LNG to these different segments. And that's of course important to get the volumes up and thus get down the costs also for the end customers. But going back a little bit to the delivery of LNG for ships and the different bunkering methods, last year we in SkanGas made roughly 600 LNG bunkerings, and that we have been doing for a couple of years already, so it's not that a new thing. Started from Norway, we are now doing the bunkers in Finland for a couple of years, and also of course in Sweden. Truck-to-ship bunkering that we do on a daily basis, both from 1 truck at a time and also 2 trucks at a time. So, for example, delivering 2 trucks at a time, roughly 100 cubic, we can do in a little bit under 2 hours. And that's of course suitable for some vessels, depending on the need. If it's a smaller vessel, truck-to-ship is very flexible, cost-efficient. But of course, if you need bigger volumes, if you have a short turnaround in the harbor, then you need to look at different solutions. Next one is what we do also is so-called pipe-to-ship. This is a picture from Stavanger, where we have Fjord Line coming in with two ships. So they have a tight schedule, and we need to bunker quite big volumes at once. So thus it's more efficient to have a fixed solution. So when they come into the harbor, we do directly the bunkering from a pipe. That's increasing, again, the availability, the speed of bunkering, both transfer rates and, of course, time stayed in harbor. But, of course, we can't really build terminals or fixed installations in each harbor. That would not really work out. But for those vessels calling harbors where we already have terminals, it's a very efficient way of doing the bunkering. But of course, the ship owner doesn't really want to do the big deviation. It's no idea to go up to Reisavik and do the bunkering if you're operating in this area. So that's, of course, ship to ship is the way we see it forward also, so we can be more flexible and go where the customers are. We did our first ship-to-ship bunkering already last autumn here in outside of Göteborg. We did it then with the Coral Energy, which is a feeder vessel, so she's not really designed for doing ship-to-ship bunkering, but we made some small modification and seeing that this also, in fact, doable with that ship. And here we are bunkering the Tärnsund here in September outside of Göteborg. This is the test and show that this is possible. And this is showing also the different methods and making sure if you have an LNG-fueled ship, it depends a little bit where you go, so we can do with different methods. So for the Tärnsund example, there has been bunkerings truck to ship. They have been bunkered this one ship to ship as far. They have been also, for example, in the Pori terminal, bunkering pipe to ship. And also different locations around in the Northwest Europe is possible to serve those customers. But then a couple of words of Coralius. As I said, ship to ship is the way we see it forward and what is needed in the market to make it available for the ship owners to even go further and investing in LNG fueled ships. As I said, I hope as many as possible of you had the possibility to visit Coralius. Yesterday she was here in the harbor. She came directly from the shipyard, so we were a little bit sweaty. Will he make it? Will she make it or not? But it was very good. We have a lot of people doing the utmost ensuring that we could have her here yesterday. And she stayed here yesterday, and as I said, hopefully many of you had the possibility to visit her and see it's a very nice ship. As I said, she will do feedering and she will do ship-to-ship bunkerings. At the moment, she left last night, so at the moment she's sailing up to Reisavik, to our production facility. I think she should be there by this evening. Then we start to cool her down, filling gas in the tanks and do all the testing, and she most likely will be ready then for operations within 3-4 days, depending on how that process goes. But a little bit on the summary. On the drivers, of course, as I mentioned, the environment, it will get stricter and stricter on the emissions. Sustainability will be more and more a key issue when choosing a fuel. And there LNG has a strong position with being a very clean marine fuel. And of course, it's not only there. We can also do biogas, liquefied biogas deliveries. The beauty is, again, it's the same methane, so you can completely mix those with each other. If you want to have 10% of biogas into your ship, that's also possible. It's, of course, we talked about the LNG availability. The biogas availability is quite much smaller, and the price of that product is quite much higher. But that's also showing that you can go for a renewable gas in the future from a technical perspective. There's no problem in using liquid biogas in a LNG fuel ship. So the environment restrictions will get stricter and stricter, and gas have a role to play in that game. The other one is, of course, if you have a good product, it's also, is it available? What does it cost? So, of course, as I said, the availability is increasing all the time in this region, making the LNG available. And as we get more and more gas also from into the global market, we will also ensure that the competitiveness is on the right level. So we will also get that fixed. We see that LNG will be a major fuel for shipping. It's only a question of time. Then it's a question of how long is that time horizon and what is a major fuel. But we strongly believe that that's the way it's going in the market. These are real-life pictures, so this engine is also running, and you see no black smoke coming out of the funnel. This is still something you see in harbors here and there. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tommy. As you said, the new bunker vessel, Coralius.
Coralius,
Yes. She has left Domsö
Yes.
Harbor, going back to Reykjavik.
Yes.
And
Reykjavik, not to Reykjavik.
Reykjavik.
Yes.
Reykjavik.
Stavanger.
And, Stavanger, yes. And in Norway.
Yes, in Norway.
And many of the participants might have been there at the opening, yes. But my thought is, what is your thought or expectations for this new bunker vessel in the future?
Yes, of course. Those who was there saw that it's a very nice ship, and it's a long-term commitment to get this ship into the market. So, of course, our expectation is that we can then grow the market. We can show the market that now LNG is available as ship-to-ship bunkers in this region, making the ship owners confident to make that decision to go for the next vessel that they will build on LNG. So, of course, we have high expectation for using Coralius for that purpose.
We wish you good luck for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tommy Mattila, for this.
Thank you.